It really surprises me that the Damasko watch company does not get more attention online, and in particular, it really surprises me that this DS30 from Damasko is not being spoken about a lot more than it is. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches, and I think there's two main reasons why brands like Damasko aren't more popular. Firstly, because it's a relatively new company. It's not a heritage brand. I don't think that stops people buying it, but I think that's a factor. But I think the main factor, just like some other brands that I absolutely love, is the accessibility to them. If I want to go try on a Damasko, I can't. I can't go to a shop and say, hey, I'd like to have a look at the DS30, because there is no shops where I live that have them. So I need to make a leap of faith and order one online, just like I did with this particular watch. And I've done this with other brands too, and I have to say that whenever I've done this, whenever I've bought from these brands that are hard to actually see in real life, they turn out to be amazing watches. Watches like Christopher Ward as well. I find that these brands tend to be the best ones, or the ones that I like the most. So it is a shame that they are not more readily accessible to other people so they could try them on and get a bit of an understanding. Which is why today I'm going to try and do my best on a video to show you and convey to you why I think this watch is so good. I'm going to try and show you some nice macro footage. I'm going to try and show you some good movement of the case so you can see all the details of it. And I'm going to try and point out to you all the things about this watch that make it so special, and why it has grabbed my attention as much as it has, and why I've been wearing it so much. Now, when you look at the Damasko website, you'll see that they have a very common theme throughout their watches, but you'll see the pricing between the models does vary quite considerably. This DS30 that I own is one of their more affordable options, and the main reason why it's more affordable is because of the movement choice. This DS30 contains the ETA 2824-2, but it's the elaborate version of it, so it's the top of the range ETA movement. Other watches within their range, they've developed an in-house caliber movement, and the other thing that will affect the prices of their watches is the complications that they are using. The movements that have those chronograph features are going to cost a little bit more. But this one here, the one I'm going to be obviously talking about today, is the watch that I've owned, the one that I've worn and that I've enjoyed so much, the DS30. And it comes in a couple of different variations. You can get just a white model, there's a green model I think, and I've got the DS30 blue, which means it has a blue second hand and a blue date number. The date wheel itself is color matched to the dial, which I find very, very nice, and something that helps it integrate really well into that dial. But then having that little touch of blue that then relates to that second hand, I find it to be a really nice, relatively subtle but pleasant thing to have on this watch. And I have to admit, when I first bought this watch, I was a little bit concerned that that blue might look a little bit weird in real life. But as it's turned out, it is definitely one of the key features of this watch that keeps me coming back to it. Even though this is their more affordable watch on their website, it's still 1,210 euros, including their VAT taxes, but excluding shipping. Now, of course, if you're not in Europe, you get to remove that VAT, but you then need to add your own taxes, and shipping will vary slightly because of depending on where you happen to be in the world. And when you buy this one, for that amount of money, you get it on a leather strap, and the leather strap is actually really nice. I really like the leather strap that came with this watch, but it's not really my style. I'm not really a black strap person, and I just felt that this one would be so much nicer on their custom-made bracelet, which they make in their factory in Germany. But again, it's not cheap, unfortunately. It is 645 euros, including that VAT, which at the time when I decided to buy that, it felt like a huge amount of money. But when you look at the quality of it, where it's made, how it's made, custom for this specific watch, and because I like this watch so much, it pushed me over the edge to buy it for this watch. And I'm glad that I did, because it has elevated this watch and it has made me wear this watch even more than I was before. And one of the things that I love about this watch is the dimensions, because this is a 39mm case diameter. It's only 10mm high, and it has a lovely lug-to-lug of 47mm, and a lug width of 20. Now on this bracelet, this custom bracelet for this specific watch, it's 132 grams, but you'll see that bracelet has male end links, but they do curve down considerably and they don't really affect how it changes, how it fits on my wrist. That 47mm lug to lug does feel right even with those male end links. Now before I even talk about the dial of this watch, which is something that I really like about it, I want to talk about the materials used for the case, because the look of the case, the look of the bracelet, the color and the feel is something that is absolutely a standout feature of this watch. In fact, as soon as you hold this watch and see it, it draws your attention even more than the dial, because this one is not made out of stainless steel. It is made out of submarine steel, which has some interesting characteristics. It is very hard. It is corrosion resistant. It has some anti-magnetic qualities, and it resists cracking when it's under pressure. And it's not something that would specifically change your mind about what you want your watch made out of, but all of them together make for a really different watch and gives it some real strong resistance. In fact, I've heard multiple people say to me when they've seen that I have this watch that they've owned one similar and they've never been able to scratch it. It's almost unable to be scratched. Now, I'm not going to test that. However, it gives you the sort of idea that this is a watch you can wear regularly and not end up with those scratches. And that is exactly what I've experienced. I've had none of those little minor scratches that you normally get with wear and tear of watches. And I've worn this watch a lot. So that is something special, but it's the feel that really grabs me, because you touch this case, you touch the bracelet that is made out of the same steel, and it has this lovely soft quality to it that really, really elevates this watch and just makes you want to hold this watch. It makes you want to wear this watch. And that brings me to the main thing that you really see when you look at a watch, when you first see a watch, and that is the dial. Of course it's the dial, and this one does not disappoint. It is a matte black finishing with everything that is on it printed on in white. You'll see the markers at the hours are larger than the minute. We've got this crosshairs, which seems to be something that I'm really drawn towards, especially a more simple dial. The Damasko logo just below the 12, integrated into those crosshairs, made in Germany down at the 6 o'clock. You'll then see the integrated date window at the 3 o'clock with a color match background and that blue color. The blue that then matches in with that blue second hand, that nice long blue second hand. And looking at the hands in general, they almost look like they float on the dial, because you'll see the counterbalances of the hour, minute and second are color matched to the dial. So it gives it a real interesting floating effect. And then when you look at the hour and minute hand, how large they are, how bright white they are, it becomes a very good watch to look at to tell the time, because it is a very easy watch to tell the time. And when you turn the lights off, it becomes even easier because of the strong lume that this particular watch actually has. It not only is bright, but it lasts throughout the night, which is a really nice thing. This is one of those watches when you walk past a window, it will capture that light just for a second, and then you'll see the watch glowing on your wrist. That flat piece of sapphire crystal that is covering that dial has dual AR coating on the top of it and on the underneath of it. So there is a real good anti-reflective qualities to this particular watch, adding to that legibility. And then let's talk about the crown, because this watch takes crowns to the next level, or the features or the technologies behind it, and is one of the things that really makes it superior to other watches in this price category, or just other watches, because they have a patent on a particular crown stem technology that makes this something rather special. Because not only is the crown hardened, it is also involving a triple seal, which assists with keeping the watch water resistant. There is also an inbuilt lubrication cell that means every time you move the crown, you pull it in or out, it lubricates that crown stem, which allows this to last a much longer period of time without any requirement for intervention or servicing. And it's also set up with an inbuilt anti-impact system, which allows the watch to sustain more shocks, which gives the watch a long life, but it also makes it more of a hard-wearing tool watch to actually own and wear. The case back is relatively simple, but you can see that it reinforces that this watch is made in Germany and that it has 200 meters of water resistance. This is not a watch that you are tending to look at the back of anyway, so it's nice just for it to be simple, and you can see it's that same submarine steel which gives you this real extra comfort on wrist. So you may be asking the question as I talk about why did I spend all that money on the bracelet for this watch, and let me show you it in more detail to not only describe why, but to show you how good it is, because this one was custom made specifically for this model of watch, same steel to fit those particular lugs, so it fits fantastic and it matches in with the watch. You'll see the sides of it, they're not screws, they're these hex heads, and they're designed so you can remove every single link. It has a lot of movement amongst all those links, they're all individual, they're very comfortable, and it has this rather different butterfly style clasp with these double ceramic ball bearings, which does look very good and it feels very secure, but it makes it a little bit more difficult to actually remove it. I've ended up having to stick my thumb under my sort of bracelet there in between my wrist and then pop it up, and that I found to be the actual easiest way to take this off, which is not ideal. However, when I take into account the benefits of this bracelet and how good it looks, it is a compromise that I'm willing to make. Which brings me to what do I like about this watch? What don't I like about this watch, and what would I change? And I'm going to say there's a lot to like. This is one of my favorite watches in my collection because I love the style of it, the look of it, the quality of it, that dial and just how they've done the layout and how those hands seem to float on top of it, and the feel of this watch. The sizing, the steel, how thin it is. That is what makes it feel so nice on wrist, and having a good on-wrist experience makes a watch in my collection be worn much more often. I admit, however, the date being in that blue color makes it a little bit harder to read. It makes it mean that it's not at a glance legible for the date. But I like the fact that that blue color that matches in with that second hand gives this watch a little bit of extra character, because just being black and white can sometimes feel a little bit plain or a little bit boring. Not that I consider this watch boring at all, but that flash of color is very nice, but it is a little bit tricky to read the date window sometimes. And that leads me to only two things that I would change. If I was to be able to make any changes on this watch, I would probably change that clasp. Although it's nice, although it's secure, although it's interesting and different, it is a little bit harder to open than other clasps that I've owned. And perhaps that is a good thing, but I do find I have to think about it and really give it a push. And maybe there's just a better technique that I need to discover. And leaves me with one final thing: the date window at the 3 o'clock. There's something about that I always consider it to be the wrong place. It's okay, it's fine, I live with it. But if it was placed at the 6 o'clock, I think that would give the watch more symmetry, and I think it would look even better. So why is it then that this watch is so amazing, fits so well, looks so good, has been worn so much in my collection, and people aren't buying them enough? Or perhaps they are and they're just not speaking about it. It is a company that is definitely progressing, it is growing, so obviously they are developing a customer base, but it is a watch brand, and this particular watch in particular, that I think you guys should be more aware of. I think you should be considering it and at least being aware of it, because when you are looking at this style of watch, a German-made watch, people think Zinn. And I understand that. I've had hands-on with quite a few Zinn watches, and they're very nice, and they have much more of a brand sort of history, which I understand people do enjoy. But when I put this watch, my Damasko DS30, side by side with Zinn watches, the Damasko is significantly better, or at least I think it is. Or perhaps I just prefer it. But no, I actually think it is better because of the technology that's in it and the thought that's been put into it, the different types of materials, and how it sits on wrist. I just prefer it. Although I do like the Zinn watches, I can say right now, I'd be picking this Damasko every single time. Thank you guys for watching. Maybe check these videos out next.